to my left, we have Lexy Panetta, who is joining us from a dance background. Owen from Adidas. Michael Dale, who is actually teaching at ACPE, but is also a qualified physiotherapist, and we're trying to convince him to offer free services here. And we also have Kevin Grima from Liverpool Football Academy. Sorry, Liverpool FC International Football Academy. So, thank you. And before I kick off and just do any further introductions, I'll ask each of you to just go down the line and introduce yourselves, a bit more detail about what you do and where you're doing it, because I know a variety of you have multiple hats on, and just what you studied to get there. So I'll start with you, Lexy. That's not on. Is the light on? Still connecting? Sorry. Do you want to check the speaker?
Yeah.
Still flashing? Grab that one now.
Thank you, Bernadette. That's doing the same. Okay, we can just share this. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Lexy Panetta, and I'm actually also a lecturer here at ACPE, and I teach in the dance and education faculty here. But I also work at the Sydney Dance Company. So I'm not sure if there are many dancers in the space today, but it's an internationally recognised dance company based in Walsh Bay. And I've been working there for about 10 years in 2 different capacities. I'm a resident teaching artist, which is someone who goes out to schools or goes out to the community in broader Australia and teaches company repertoire, and also kind of various other workshop style environment kind of things. And also a lot of choreography and a lot of dance practice. And then also my job here at ACPE, I'm a dance lecturer, so I teach dance education subjects here for those interested in becoming a high school teacher in dance, which I also was once, but and also in our dance practice degree. What was the other part of the question, Bernadette? A lot of study. I actually went to UNSW, and there used to be a dance program there that I studied in a little while back, and it was a dual degree. I was always really passionate for dancing and dance practice. I really loved anatomy and physiology. I loved philosophy and I loved history. So looking at a program that covered those things, I was really excited. It was also a dual degree, as I mentioned, so there was also an education degree attached to that, which I had no idea that I'd ever become involved in education. It's quite crazy. I'm in education in all of my careers at the moment, but I was really excited because I got to get a whole different perspective to, I guess, dance and arts practice and also creative arts practice in education, which I then ended up pursuing high degree research in later on, and of course getting a role here to be a dance lecturer. So I really love academia, and I got to explore that at uni, and I really love the practical dance side. So I went to uni for 7 years to achieve that, and I'm currently doing my PhD very, very part-time on the side, but yeah, I really love research, practice and dance.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Owen. I'm from Adidas, based in the Melbourne head office. So I look after all things B2B, corporate and teamwear. So B2B and corporate involves business to business. So I look after all things global and local. So think Formula One, we have Mercedes and Audi. So I was heavily involved there at the start of the year. I also look after Liverpool Academy here in Australia, Arsenal Academy. In January of this year, I got the opportunity to travel the UK. So I was working with Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, and also went to Bayern Munich as well. And then on the way back, came back via Dubai. So yeah, a very varied role. I also look after all teamwear for sport here in Australia, so basketball, cricket, hockey, football, tennis, netball. If you support any team and you want to know any result from the last 12 months, and hopefully I'll know, hopefully able to list goal scorers as well. My background is a little bit different. I never did tertiary education. My parents had the #1 football retail store in New Zealand, so I've actually known Nike and Adidas since I was 4 or 5 years old. And when I was 12 years old, I had 2 dreams. One was to work for Adidas, and the other was to be a professional footballer. So one of them's come true, and then my mates are living out the other one at the World Cup at the moment. So yeah, I'll pass this one over.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Mike. So currently I practice as a physiotherapist and strength and conditioning coach in the clinic, and then I work as an academic here at ACPE. So I work in the health science department where I teach a variety of subjects, mostly around sort of exercise prescription, rehab, and then nutrition as well. So my background, so I actually studied at ACPE and finished in 2017. It took a while for me to get there actually. I studied for a couple of years at Western Sydney and then had a couple of seasons of playing cricket overseas, and then finished my undergraduate degree here. So I did a Bachelor of Health majoring in exercise. And during that time I worked as a sort of sports trainer, and then I went into strength and conditioning. So I was lucky enough to do some work at the Parramatta Eels. I also did some work in rugby sevens as well. So that was a fantastic experience for me to do that, sort of coinciding with my study. When I finished my degree, I then went into personal training as well, so had some experience sort of working with general population. And then I figured that I probably should do something else, so I then went and did a Masters in Physiotherapy at Sydney University. So I've currently been working in practice as a physio for the past 5 years, and then in that role, I'm working with a variety of different athletes and then general population as well. So the main thing I found is the great part about ACPE is it helps you discover like what you want to do. So what Sally was talking about, you may go into a degree and not necessarily know what occupation you want to go into. So the beauty of it is you learn a variety of different subjects and you start to sort of get a bit of an idea of what you'd like to do. So it was fantastic to be able to do that, and then sort of long time, but studied for 7 years and then ended up sort of getting into private practice. So my dual role here as a teacher, I really enjoy giving back to students and being able to see them sort of have those experiences that I had and develop their skills. So currently really enjoying my role, both in practice and as an academic.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Grima and I'm the Director of Football for Liverpool Football Club International Academy across Australia and New Zealand. I'm a teacher by trade, and I was actually a mature age student when I started my studies. So I was actually living in Malta, Southern Europe with my family, and I decided to combine my two passions, and they were to work with young people and sport. So I completed a 4-year undergraduate, Bachelor's of Health and Physical Education in Western Australia. And then my appetite for education encouraged me to complete a Master of Education to have a point of difference in leadership and management. Worked in the education sector for a number of years through primary schools, secondary schools, and even at the university level. And then my experiences in football led me to a role to Football Australia, which enabled me to move across to Sydney. And now I have incredible opportunities with one of the biggest clubs in world football. The reason why I'm in this position is because of my education background and the fact that I've had many years of experience to work with children across the spectrum from K to 12. So I've got good experiences from primary to secondary school. And it's just, I did not envisage to be working for LFC. I wanted to be a school teacher. I thought my career path would enable me to have a career in the education sector, but you just don't know where life will take you. And the most important thing is to continue to study. I'm still studying to this day. I'm 43 years of age and I'm still studying, doing my UEFA A qualifications in Wales, because it's really important to stay on top of your studies, maintain contemporary knowledge, so that there's a point of difference when it comes to employment.
Amazing, and we've got Mike's back online. Brilliant. So, I mean, I studied fashion to start with, and look at me now. Thank you for that, and thank you for the detailed introductions. From your kind of experiences, Mike in particular, you mentioned having done opportunities whilst studying to kind of build those experiences. Are there any other practical kind of internships, placements, or anything that you guys did that helped you get to where you are, or you would recommend students do when they are studying? And I'll start with Mike so you can expand on what you were just saying.
Yeah, I think the best thing about being in your guys' position, I assume the majority of you live at home. I know how expensive it is to live out of home. So utilising this time when you're at home to go and do these internships, because the nature of sport, if you want to go down that pathway, there's a lot of time and hours you have to put in, and quite often the remuneration isn't the best. So I think when you're in this current position, going out and seeking those. So for me personally, like I was very lucky. If any of you know who Nathan Kalis is, when he retired, he actually started working with my dad. And then my dad obviously just got speaking to him. And then through that, Nathan was also the head of the academy program at the Parramatta Eels. So that was my first sort of in. So that was quite lucky that I had that opportunity. But then from there, I continued to progress and work and then go more down that strength and conditioning pathway. So obviously it is helpful to have those types of connections, but the other internships I did, like I just went out and sort of seeked like people that I followed on social media or followed sort of through other media sort of avenues, and just asking them, because quite often people will be happy to have you around and allow you to shadow and actually gain experience. So I've then been lucky enough to have people begin to work under me. So seeing people keen and wanting to learn, like I'm more than happy to take people on. So I think sort of having that proactive attitude and actually going out there and seeking things and trying to learn and going to different sports that you like is very important at this stage of your career. Because the thing with university, it's fantastic in regards to sort of getting a foundational knowledge of certain topics, but it's another story in regards to actually being able to apply that in certain contexts. So I think if you can do that whilst you're studying, you're not only then figuring out like what works in practice, but also it's nice to actually link like what the things you're learning with and then actually doing that with different sports and athletes. So I'd say they're probably quite important to try.
Anyone else want to add to that? Yep.
I might add to that, just because I guess in the dance industry it's a little bit different with the internship sort of format, and it's not as common to get internships, I guess, in the dance industry. But kind of similarly throughout my uni life, when I finished my undergraduate in the dance education and dance arts degree, I ended up doing an honours program in dance film, which was a whole different discipline altogether. But because of the digital nature of film, I was able to enter that filmic product into a bunch of different competitions, and I was able to gain a residency. So it's kind of like an internship. I didn't get paid, but I had my expenses of my life kind of paid for me to go live in Germany for a year, which was absolutely incredible, where I could just refine and develop my practice. And I think back to, that's a really critical part of my development as a dancer and choreographer, but also in dance film. I teach that here at ACPE. It became then a discipline that I got to expand my own definition of myself in, and I never thought I would be. I'm pretty bad with technology, so it's kind of ironic that that's all the way it goes, but creatively it was a really excellent expansion of myself, and it provided me with so many opportunities to not only creatively expand myself, but then also to really sort of shift the way that I saw dance and practice. And having that living opportunity overseas for a year was just incredible, because it opened my horizon when I returned back to Australia, where I started to enter the tertiary and university sector. So similar kind of putting yourself out there and believing that you can maybe make more connections by just asking and being curious, and not being afraid to try new things, because I certainly had no experience in film, but it ended up being a great opportunity.
I just want to jump back to Kevin. How does one become a director of football?
Gee, that's quite a broad question.
Yeah. And sorry, what does a director of football do?
Sure. So we oversee 26 different partner schools across Australia, and it's about having a standardised model. So all the schools that are part of the Liverpool framework are given an authentic experience on school grounds. So essentially it's about maintaining the highest of standards and making sure that all sessions are authentic to what happens at the ACPE Training Centre. Really important that you generate buy-in with the head coach, because I'm not able to be present at these 26 schools and give them the resources to be able to deliver with confidence, competence, but most importantly, the Liverpool way.
Great, thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, so you've got varying kind of backgrounds and everything. When preparing for your careers and the jobs you're in now, was there anything that stood out, or when you think back, anything that stands out that helped you kind of get to where you are but were there gaps as well? And how did you feel those gaps? Like you're in the industry, you're working, you realise, oh, I'm not actually equipped to do this. What do I need to get there? Does anyone want to kick that one off?
Sure. Yeah. I hope I get this right. You know, that's a really big, broad question. I think for me personally, I've always felt like the job and the career that I have currently is never fixed, and it's constantly so fluid. And you know, it's sort of by nature being part-time academic here, part-time learning associate and choreographer and artist at Sydney Dance Company. But the exact reason as to why I have these multiple sort of hats is because of the gaps. So I guess that's a entry point into sort of unpacking it. There is no one trajectory, I think, in dance careers and perhaps for sports as well. You know, I think so many dancers come into, you know, high school and maybe they study dance and then they want to become a performer and that's their kind of goal. But in order to become a performer, you have to then maybe go into full-time dancing, which is a 2-year program that I also teach in at Sydney Dance Company. And that's kind of this pathway that goes into performing. But then by committing and putting all your eggs in that basket, you're mitigating the rest of the dance career and the sustainable, you know, careers that come in that, which are essential into paving over those gaps. You know, a performance career is incredible. I loved performing when I was performing, but I always was equally interested in the other sort of little pockets. So I've kind of been really fortunate to sort of be on a merry-go-round, and when I'm not in a performance modality, I can kind of shift into maybe a writing modality, and then maybe shift into teaching, and then back into writing, and then maybe when I'm ready, I'm back in performing, or, you know, kind of having your octopus paws in all of these different pots. But I feel like that's a way of leveraging how the industry can further itself, because if we all have performers, then who's doing the advocacy, who's doing the educating, who's doing the curating and putting on in production, and who's, you know, making these things happen for the performers. So it's really important, I guess, to broaden the perspective of what could be possible, and that can only I think that can only happen from studying, because that's where I realised there were all of these other elements to explore in dance and creative practice.
Amazing.
We're a little bit vulnerable here. So I actually started at Adidas head office a week after my 20th birthday, and again, when you're 20, you sort of feel like you can take on the world and navigate a lot. And I got an email 2 weeks after starting from someone named Adrian Leia. So Adrian Leia, I didn't do my background research. Hey mate, saw you played for New Zealand under 20s and a few other bits and pieces, and boosted my ego and said, hey mate, can we jump on a call? And I said, yeah, of course. So me being me, very naive, I decided to take this call without doing any background research of the person I was meeting. I knew Marco Rojas, who was a good family friend of mine. He won A-League Player of the Year. I had travelled to Switzerland with him and a few other things. And so I jump on this call and he goes, so what do you know about the football landscape? And again, I talked about myself for the first 10, 15 minutes, started name dropping people. And he goes, oh yeah, I know Marco really well. I was his captain at Melbourne Victory. I played 100 games for Melbourne Victory. I played against Liverpool. And that was probably one of the defining moments in my career where I started realising that there's people that have achieved far more than you. And again, Adrian's one of my closest friends now. He'll still reply to my Instagram stories and things like that, but we still touch base in regards to that moment. And he goes, I'm glad you had that experience when you were so young. And similar to what they've touched on, when you reach out and you get mentors and you get guidance, the people are willing to support, but they also have their story. So it's really important that you lean in and you understand the expertise of who you're meeting and how they can offer and support, because again, we've all crossed paths in so many different ways, and again, spoke to these two before, and we can talk and we can relate to people that they know that I know. So yeah, again, it's just about putting that best foot forward, but yeah, make sure you do your research as well, because that will help pave over any gaps that you may have.
Really good advice, actually.
I think then going off what Owen said, the nature of working in health and science, it's quite a daunting field in regards to, especially in the current climate, research is always coming out and changing. So I think the reality is, like, you're never going to know everything. So it's about just slowly accumulating knowledge over time. And you're always going to have gaps, but then it's about being able to look the research up yourself or have a mentor that you're able to have these sort of topics of discussion about. And one of the main reasons that I actually got into physio was some of the frustrating treatment that I actually got like when I was younger. So for me personally, I wanted to go in and try and make a difference to people's lives, and it's been a very enjoyable experience working with a variety of people. And it's quite funny because there's, you know, quite often a lot of things that get done sort of in practice that are actually quite outdated. So I sort of pride myself on understanding what I know and don't know and just trying to consistently learn sort of over time. So even when you finish your uni degree, that's really just the starting point in regards to touching the surface of knowledge that you accumulate over time. And then it will be about then how to sort of be able to put that into different settings. So I think one of the most challenging things that I've found sort of throughout my career is you may have a perfect program or intervention on paper, but if you then have 20 athletes in a room and only limited equipment, then it's your ability to actually be able to like modify that sort of on the fly and be able to sort of come up with adjustments, or the coach might want to do something different. So being able to have that flexibility, as well as then just sort of developing those principles in regards to maybe, things that'll be useful. But that adaptability is really useful as well.
Great. Kevin, did you want to add to that, or?
Just to have a point of difference, the reality is once you do your education degree or any degree, you're competing with these people. What's your point of difference? What makes you unique? What's going to make you employable? You do need to work hard and do voluntary work, so that way you develop a skill set that will enable you to achieve an industry career for the rest of your life. It's really important that you have that point of difference and identify what your strengths are. Make that your superpower. A lot of people talk about their deficiencies, and that's all well and good to work on your deficiencies so that you're at a level where you can do it with competence. But what I always advise to others is that look at your strength, make that your superpower, make that your point of difference to gain that job. Because it is ultimately competitive out there when you go into the sporting sector to achieve work. When I graduated many years ago, not all of us got a job. And it was those that went out above and beyond, those that got high grades at university, those that put out the time to do voluntary work, those that gave up their time to gain more experiences. Be that person. What's your point of difference? What's your superpower?
That's so true. When I was studying business at a university that will not be named, I was the only in my cohort to do an internship, and out of all of my colleagues back then, I was probably, one of very few who went into marketing, and the rest went into sales because they didn't have that back in their CV. So it's really important to take advantage and create those opportunities for yourself. In terms of your roles that you're in now, and any kind of role that you've had in the past that stands out for you, what core qualities or behaviours have made you successful?
I'd say both for me personally working, but now also having younger people come and work sort of at the clinic that I work at. One of the biggest things is just being reliable. Like, it's funny how these days people just like won't turn up on time, or you ask them to do something, they won't do it. It's just such a simple core skill that requires no sort of mental ability to be really good at. And the other thing I'd say is always being inquisitive and curious. I think it's very easy to have someone tell you something and then just believe it if they're in a position of power to you. But it's always really important to actually understand why exactly they're doing it. Because what you'll quite often see is when people tell you these things and you actually ask them that question, they themselves won't necessarily know why. They may have just heard that off someone else prior, and then they're just sort of regurgitating that information back to you. So one of the things that I find most enjoyable is when I have athletes that are in that position and are really curious, it's good to have them question what you're doing with them and why. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point? Is this actually going to achieve sort of their outcome? So I'd say they're two of the qualities that I'd definitely sort of really try and develop sort of over time. And as I said, they don't really require any mental sort of qualities. It's just sort of effort and then, yeah, just always asking questions.
Brilliant. Does anyone want to add to that?
I'm happy to. Another core skill as well, essentially we all work with people. Connection precedes commitment. Know the individual, build that connection, and that's how you generate buy-in, and that's how you can be impactful, whether it's in dance, it's in physiotherapy, working with a sporting brand, or the role that I do. It's about knowing the individual, taking a vested interest in them, because that's how you generate buy-in. And I've seen the impact that that has as well. All our jobs are about impact, and if you know the individual, and if you build that connection, that's the best way to make an impact.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Dance represent. Excellent. I would second and third all of those exceptional attributes. I think also just to sort of expand on curiosity, if you're considering a dance or creative practice career, innovation and creative thinking is one of the most sought out skills, and it can't be done by AI. So remembering that your ideas and your authentic perspective on something, which comes from being curious and knowledgeable, it doesn't come from having all the information in your head, it comes from having a willingness and adaptability to want to continue learning and knowing that your tank's not always full, and pursuing information and seeking out learning opportunities. That's how you can enhance innovation and critical and creative thinking. So I think those are skills that are not going to be overrun by technology. They're skills that we need to really refine and enhance in you and in the community. So yeah, and they're definitely things in my industry that on both educational, academic and performance choreographic sides are extremely useful and praised. So I would just offer that.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm glad you touched on AI. I could go down a rabbit hole and just kind of, we could go on for it. But it's interesting. You're all in roles and in industries that AI is going to be less prevalent in from a doing perspective. So sport is a great place, or dance is a great place to be when it comes to job security, I would suggest. That's very high level. Conscious of timing, we probably want to ask some questions from the audience potentially. So I'm just going to ask one more question and then hand over to you guys. What are you looking for in graduates?
Just to kind of go off what I was saying before, willingness to learn, adaptability, willing to take on more than one hat. If you're an educator, you're also people skills. You're working in content knowledge, but also with people, as Kevin said. So just having that sort of approachability is really important, and yeah, curiosity.
Yeah, from an Adidas perspective, I'd say just turning up and being involved with as much as you can. Again, I work with a lot of people internally, and there's some that are super comfortable. But again, it's the ones that sort of come in and can shake the difference and get involved in activations, turn up, and say yes to different things that tend to do very, very well for themselves.
Yeah, I think touching on what Kevin said, if you're looking for a career in healthcare, that ability to actually build rapport and listen to people is probably the most important skill. It's quite funny, like as a physio you think, oh, it's got to be like my perfect assessment of the knee or taking a history, but the fact is that being able to console people, listen to their problems and actually be able to support them through the process of rehabilitation, that in itself is probably the best type of rehab versus actually the specific exercises that you sort of give them. So there will be specific examples where maybe the exercise does take priority, but the reality is most people just want to be heard and listened to and supported there emotionally, and that in itself can be the best cure for a lot of people's problems.
When I look at increasing my team, I always look at how to make the team better. I don't want a mini-me. I want someone who's going to stretch me, someone who's going to make the team better. So always ask yourself the question, what is your point of difference? What makes you unique? And what will you bring to the organisation?
Amazing, thank you. Does anyone from the audience have questions? I mean, I've got a couple more, so I'm happy to jump back in. What would you recommend the students at this age, year 11, year 12, some year 10, could go about doing now to prepare them for their university studies in your field, really?
I think first and foremost, just try and start learning as much as possible. Once again, in regards to healthcare, having that holistic approach and not only just honing in on one specific thing, but learning about other disciplines such as dietetics and nutrition, psychology and those types of things. Because if you want to go down that route, working with people, there is an element of complexity, and having a diverse knowledge base and how each affects the other, that is very sort of helpful in regards to being a physio. So yeah, just basically just trying to read as much as possible, follow people that are experts in the industry, and then if you can, yeah, try and start getting some practical experience through, local teams, if you have the opportunity, higher level teams, but that would be the two things that I'd say.
I think for myself, it's trying to find a mentor or get some guidance. So when I was 12, I actually did a school project on Adidas on a Dolph Dazzler and interviewed my parents' key account manager at the time. So I said it quite early and I sort of knew and had that sense of direction. So all through school, I kept calling Megan, what subject should I be taking, what's sort of the path, what's the guidance. And then she moved on to a new role within Adidas and I knew Frankie. And I actually got my role at Adidas by going up. I listened to Frankie for 55 minutes talk about his family. I took Krispy Kreme donuts for the office and he goes, what about yourself? And I said, well, I'm now at the position. Our World Cup's been cancelled because of COVID. The Olympics has been cancelled due to COVID. So I'm looking at a career with Adidas. And he goes, perfect, let's go take a look at the football room. I gave him some advice on the football boots and he said, perfect, when can you start? So again, it's sort of that progression of mentorship. Another mentor I had was Ryan Burke, who's the Global Sports Marketing Manager at Man United, and I'd wake up at 3 a.m. just to jump on a call with him. Funny story, I woke up at 2:30 a.m, got really excited, did all my prep. He goes, sorry mate, I've got a photo shoot with Paul Pogba. I said, okay mate, I'll allow you to go do a photo shoot with Paul Pogba. But yeah, I think getting a mentor, or even just going and having a conversation with someone that's in a role that you would like to do and just getting that further insight. It might not be one of the 4 panellists that you've seen here today or the panellists that are coming, but hopefully it sparks some interest and sparks some confidence because everyone has a story and everyone's willing to share that. It's up to you and go and get that story out of them.
Yeah, I would say, at this point in your school life, it would be really important for you to keep focused but also remain fluid. If you're looking at, a career path, say, in dance education, and then you look at the kind of degree and you think maybe this isn't going to be for me because it's missing these elements that you might have put in your bricks that Sally mentioned before, my recommendation would be to read and research some of the handbooks and look at the subjects that you actually cover. Because when I first started in that dual degree, my undergraduate, I had no idea that I'd be doing 4 units of anatomy and kinesiology on a Monday morning for 6 hours a day. I had no idea all of these things were going to be in that direction, but it did nothing but expand my concept of what dance was and what it could be, and it's had such an instrumental impact on my journey in my career. So yeah, researching handbooks and course structures to sort of get an idea about what it will be, what the course might entail is really helpful.
That's true. I had to do stats, and I still have to do stats in my day-to-day. I love it. Kevin, did you have advice?
Now, look, all really very good advice. Just be curious. Try your best at school. It's really important, but have an open mind. Always think about what will your industry that you've got a passion about look like in 10, 15 years. Because with AI, with advances in technology, it's going to look very different in 10, 15 years. So how will it look, and do you see yourself in that field in 10, 15 years? That's the other advice besides the great advice that's been given by the panellists.
Great. I think we'll wrap up there. I just want to thank our speakers once again, and we've got a little takeaway bag for you guys. Thank you, everyone. And now we'll head out to a break. You can mingle if you can catch